Across the European Union, metal theft from critical infrastructure such as railways, telecommunications, power supply networks and the food industry is seriously affecting economies and citizens alike.
The scale of metal theft runs to millions of pounds a year in costs to BT, but it's not just the cost to BT, it's the impact on our customers, with thousands of customers being cut off, unable to access their phones or their broadband, and small businesses and medium-sized businesses as well, unable to transact business. The impact on Britain, not just BT as a whole, is huge.
The value of the metal in service is worth many thousands of euros more than the money thieves obtain in selling on the scrap metal. It's the huge collateral damage that makes metal theft a direct threat to Europe's economic security.
Ultimately, when we're spending an extra £4.5 million this year alone on buying extra cylinders, at some stage we'll have to consider what impact that has on our customers and in terms of energy prices, because while we're not passing on these costs to our consumers at the moment, if we're unable to control metal theft, and we're doing a lot to try that, at some stage the end user will be affected by higher energy costs.
And there's a human cost as well. Lives have been lost and injuries have occurred as a result of metal thefts. Agriculture suffers from the effects of metal theft, with damage to irrigation systems causing crops to be lost. And personal distress is evident when thefts from religious and historic buildings, from memorials and public works of art take place.
We've kind of lost count, but we've had probably about 6 or 7 lead thefts, which have ranged over the last 18 months, at least 2 professional thefts, which involved the stripping of the lead from the full length of the building. With such a huge volume of lead being taken, there was no way that we could make a suitable temporary repair, and in fact at the time that it happened there was a shortage of lead for replacement, precisely because it was in such demand, with lead theft happening all over the place. So we had a period of months where water was able to penetrate the walls quite dramatically. And it meant that the whole wall really was saturated to the point where the radiators fell off the walls. So we had to close off the heating system, which, as you can imagine, was pretty bad for the congregation. And it was pretty dire. It's that side, I think, of the theft which the thieves never take into account. I think they think it's a victimless crime, but actually it's real people who suffer. It's their church.
The cost can be huge when lead is stolen. And also, I mean, people have a lot of emotional investment. This is a place where perhaps they've been married, where their children have been baptised, and where, their loved ones have been buried from. And to think that people have been destroying that building is emotionally quite upsetting to people.
Metal theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in many Western countries and has all the characteristics present in the new list of global criminal offences that are transnational in nature and global in terms of impact. The UK police put the cost of metal theft at £7 million a year. Portugal has recorded around 20,000 incidents of metal thefts in the last year alone. The Bureau of International Recycling estimates around 1% of our built environment is being stolen every year in Europe. Much of it is passing through illegal scrap metal dealers to then be sold back into the marketplace or shipped directly to far-off shores.
For the larger quantities involved in some of the thefts, this is commercial scale, it's organised criminal gangs. They're using large lorries, they're breaking and bolt cutting equipment 2 yards in the middle of the night and making off for several hundred at a time. The organised gangs are based in the UK, but one of the largest markets are these cylinders are going overseas, principally to Africa, where they're being reused for the LPG industry in Africa, and of course it's to the detriment of Calor Gas customers in the UK.
So what can we do to stop it? The EU-funded project Pol-Primett has brought stakeholders together from law enforcement, infrastructure giants and the recycling industry to share best practices across borders and across the public-private sector, build competences and eventually take forward a European-wide strategy.
Information between public and private sector is one of the measures that give us the opportunity to reduce the level of the metal theft.
Well, I think there's great opportunities for British Transport Police in a project like this. There's great opportunities for sharing, there's a great opportunity for learning. We have learned in some of the workshops that you've witnessed over the past day or so, but we've also done or undertaken one-to-one bilaterals with our colleagues in Valencia, where we have really got into the detail of policing operations and tactics to share that learning between different jurisdictions and different police forces. We did the same with the Guardia Sicana in Ireland. We did the same in Italy with the Guardia di Finanza, the Carabinieri, the Vatican Police, where enforcement to enforcement, where we're much more comfortable talking about tactics.
Pol-Primett's research and analysis, conferences and expert user groups have unravelled the different aspects of metal theft in order to come up with coherent responses and the first Europe-wide report on this relatively new phenomenon.
We've seen a lot of collaboration, private sector to private sector. The private sector doesn't necessarily collaborate very easily with other private sector companies in their normal day-to-day operations. They are competitors, so cooperation doesn't come easily. And perhaps most important of all, we've seen law enforcement and private sector collaboration. What we've created is a model that countries can follow in terms of public-private collaboration.
The project has also highlighted the lack of enforcement of existing EU laws that require the registration or permit control of scrap metal dealers, and the difficulties of controlling the cross-border movement of metal scrap. Cooperation from the recycling industry and scrap metal dealers across the EU and their willingness to engage with the problem has been essential to the success of the project.
But we do tend to go one step further. First of all, our gate trade is by appointment only, so we know exactly who's coming. They're given a number that they have to quote to us on the gate. This is a closed site, obviously, for security reasons. We then photograph the customer, the materials, the vehicle that they bring it in, obviously take their full identity, photographic identity, and it's all kept on electronic file. Unfortunately, our business is very unusual within this industry, and very few are subscribing to the lengths that we've gone to. We're obviously hoping that further changes to legislation in the UK will sort out the industry as a whole.
Since Pol-Primett began, laws to prohibit the use of cash in scrap metal transactions have been introduced into two major EU economies, France and the United Kingdom.
The under-table business, that's kind of right also that before you can have some under-table business, and now with cashless is better. You have 2 points. 1 point positive for the cashless, because we have no money in the scrap dealer company, so we are not attacked, because we have a lot of attack, a lot of robber arrive to try to catch and to take the money to the scrap dealers. Now, with the cashless is finished, and that's the good point. Bad point, because we have not the same rules out of France. The material and the volume go outside of France, and most particularly in the area of not far from Belgium, not far from Germany, because they have no cashless.
Success stories and good practice have been shared across participating countries.
The task force was established really when the UK government committed £5 million in terms of investment for police in the UK, other law enforcement agencies and partners to tackle metal theft. And we have developed and delivered a programme of work that looks to include as many partners. In fact, we've used over 40 partners. We have a number of measures within the programme against which the programme will be measured against. And one of those is to reduce crime, metal theft crime, both regionally and nationally. Today, we have seen those figures drop on average across the United Kingdom by about 48%, which is staggering.
The public-private element of the project has also brought awareness about innovative ways to tackle metal theft using new technologies.
This is the church in the West End of Glasgow with quite substantial lead issues where they've had thefts and things like that. What happens with the theft, they come along and they pull this out. It's really easy to pull it out. It pulls out of the chase, unless it's very securely fixed, and you can take away a whole section. There we are, that piece there. about 1.5 meters long, I can pick that up and take it away. And I can maybe take several sections away. This is an alternative product. And it has a 30-year lifespan, and it's aluminium reinforced bitumen sheet. And this works like lead, and you can bend it and you can form the chase that you might need to put it into the chase. This upper section, we're going to put back new lead work that's going to be a thicker quality, so it's heavier, so it's not as easy to lift, and we will be clipping it much more frequently so it's harder to pull out. And we're going to use smart water, which is a marking which they use that they can scan in the scrap yards, and it has an identity check in fluorescent that shows up under fluorescent light.
The project's research suggests that the current economic climate in Europe is undoubtedly driving the growth of metal theft, and solutions need to come in the form of social measures as well as law enforcement.
Metal theft is not only ordinary crime, it's the social phenomenon. Our statistics, our data show that this type of crime is committed by people that belong to the poorest part of society. And we should apply other type of measure, not only related with the criminal legislation, but in social measures.
Pol-Primett has seen interest in the project grow and has secured financing to continue the project for the next 2 years.
There are 5 core member partners of the Pol-Primett project, but as we've had our regular meetings, the number of member states attending on a regular and systematic basis has doubled, such that we now regularly have 10, 11, 12 member states attending the project, attending our events. That says to me that what we are disseminating in terms of the principles of public-private collaboration are worth companies, public and private organisations sending representatives to learn about the processes that we're involved in. Not only have the number of member states gone up, but the number of individual delegates attending. We started 3 years ago, we had around 40 delegates. We now regularly attract 80 and 90 delegates to our events, which I guess you could say people are voting with their feet.
Project leaders, People United Against Crime, hope the project's contribution in the fight against metal theft will resonate into the future.
The phenomenon of metal theft hasn't gone away. It is truly transnational. It does impact on all member states. We hope that the reports and the practices and procedures that we've developed will be well enough embedded in the states that have participated that there will be a legacy.